we saw the US Federal Reserve hike interest rates by 25 basis points in September. That in itself wasn't a big surprise, but it does raise questions about how much the Fed will hike interest rates over the next 12 to 18 months. That has implications for economic growth and also most likely for asset prices, both in the US and globally. When we think about the US Fed, they have a dual mandate. They have to keep inflation under control, but also try and keep the economy on trend growth. If you think back to 2001 and 2008-09, you saw recessions, the economy is actually shrinking, after a period of tightening monetary policy. Quite where the responsibility lay is up for debate, but it seems clear that interest rates and rising interest rates had a role to play. So when we think about the Fed today, we've seen them hike interest rates from basically 0 to around 2.25%. So far, we haven't really seen an impact on US economic growth from this tightening cycle. In fact, at the last meeting, the Fed raised its expectations for GDP growth in the US. Where we have begun to see a little bit of an impact is in the US mortgage market. Mortgage rates have gone up in the US, and we've begun to see signs of slower home sales perhaps as a result. The fate of the US economy is an important consideration for our portfolios. So far, we've taken the view that the Fed will be very cautious about how quickly it raises interest rates and probably err on the side of letting the economy grow a little bit faster rather than risking choking off its growth too soon. The Italian budget has been in the news over the past couple of weeks. The government put forward a proposal that called for a higher budget deficit than maybe some market participants had expected. The danger here is really around Italy's debt to GDP ratio, which is already pretty high. Whether the combination of higher interest rates and a high starting debt ratio will translate into something that's ultimately unsustainable. It's also worth bearing in mind that in this debate around the Italian budget, there's a question of the euro. In the past, Italy could have used its ability to print its own currency to fund its deficit. Now, with the euro, that was something that the Italian government gave up. But with the debate around the budget very much front and centre, there'll probably be some questions around whether having the euro is in Italy's best interests. Overall, we aren't expecting the debate around the Italian budget to translate into a broader European problem, but it is something that we'll continue to keep an eye on.